The following is an exclusive presentation of WI Garden Media, the voice of Garden Talk Radio.
Coming up on the program today, we're going to be discussing composting, making it, and what to add and what not to add, as well as garden maintenance over the summer. Our guest is popular gardener and host of Farmer PBS's program, Growing a Greener World. Joe Lampo will be with us.
You are listening to the most informationally packed hour of garden-focused radio in the country and on the internet with your host, husband and wife team Joey and Holly Baird. This is the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show. And
welcome to another edition of the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show. Thank you so much for allowing us to be part of your day just for a little bit. I'm your host, Joey Baird. Beside me is my wife, co-host, best friend, and gardening partner,
Holly Baird.
This program is for you, about you, to help your garden grow better, to maintain your landscape, grow healthier trees, make your grass look greener, as well as preserving what you grow. Happy you're tuning in, whether you're listening to us on one of the 20 AM and FM frequencies broadcasting our program here in 2025, through a radio app, through our parent website, thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com, underneath the Season 9 tab at the top of the page, podcast replay, or in-studio video replay. Thank you so much. You want to be part of the program, you can certainly do that by giving us a call, toll-free, coast-to-coast at 1-800-927-SHOW. That's 1-800-927-7469, or an email at gardentalkradio@gmail.com. Well, before we get in the program, Holly, it's time for this week's Joke of the Week.
What happened to the plant in math class?
Something about it didn't add up right. Something, the petals didn't...
It grew square roots.
Okay.
Yeah. This week's garden joke is brought to you by Rescue.com. American-made rescue products keep your family, home, and yard protected from pest insects like wasps, hornets, yellow jackets, flies, ants, and more. Learn more at Rescue.com. That's RESCUE.com.
Composting, making it. Well, number one, I have never met a gardener that has been able to make the equivalent of the compost in which they need. A backyard gardener, you know, the average person. Now, there's people like our guest coming up, Joe Lampo, who makes quantities of compost. But for people like you and me and you, the listener, most of us can't make the compost in which we need. So we have to outsource it, being a reliable garden center or manufacturer of some sort.
Right. So, so composting, if you're not familiar, it involves the natural decomposition of organic matter, transforming it into a nutrient-rich soil, and that soil is healthy and feeds your plants. This process can be done at home. It can be anywhere from a small 2x2 area to...
Pick a size.
And there's different ways to compost. There's bins, there's turners, there's tumblers, there's
just open piles.
Yeah, open piles, whatever.
One thing you got to be aware of, if you're going to choose and say, okay, we're going to have a compost pile this year in the backyard, wherever, fill in the blank, choose your location. And you got to choose your location wisely. If you're in the country or you're in an area where regulations aren't regulated because you got your own property, you got 600 acres of whatever, do what you want. But if you're in a municipality, if you're in an HOA, if you're in the city, there are certain rules and regulations in which the city has set forth for you that if you are going to compost in your backyard, it needs to be this or this type of this. Typically, an enclosed compost means a tumbler of some sort where animals can't get in and dig through and cause issues. But right. Check with your city hall.
Yeah, so you want to choose your location, as Joey mentioned, wisely. Then, or if you want to use a bin, and my sister has a compost turner. It's not one that's like raised.
It's kind of like a ball.
It's like a ball.
Yeah.
She found it on Marketplace, so you can look on there. Certainly, you could build your own. There's a lot of options. So you want to gather your materials. There's green materials and there's brown materials.
If you for the next week, if you're not a composter and you have no intentions of composting and you listen to the show, we thank you for that, whether you're a gardener or not. Just look at the amount of material that comes out of your home whether it's being scraps from food, not necessarily meat, but lettuce scraps or carrot peels, potato peels, and the amount of paper material that exits your home for trash or recycling. You will be amazed of the quantity in which goes out your back door and either gets thrown in the trash or gets put in the recycling bin.
Yeah, definitely. So green materials, this is the nitrogen rich. We have vegetable scraps, fruit peels, coffee grounds, manure, and grass clippings. And when we say grass clippings, we want you to use the grass clippings that don't have any pesticides,
chemical-free, seed-free.
Yeah, grass clippings. So just keep that in mind when it comes to grass clippings. And then for the brown materials, this is like dried leaves, twigs, straw,
shredded paper.
Yeah, shredded paper, cardboard. That's pretty good.
And you want to. There is a ratio for this, but the basic simplistic level is 50% on both, half and half. If you get that ratio, 50 of the green, 50 of the brown, you're going to be fine, because you need a certain amount of brown, because the green is going to be moist. So you need the brown to absorb the green and start fermenting or breaking down and creating heat. Now, you have to add oxygen to this. So the tumbler, you're mixing air in it. If you've got a pile, you want to stir that pile, take the inner core and put it on the out, invert it every so many days. And you're trying to get that core temperature up to that 150 to 170 degree temperature, consistent for 72 hours, to kill any viable weed seeds that you may, or watermelon seeds or pumpkin seeds or whatever you have in that pile, in order to do that. So you have what is called hot composting. Now, there is a method of cold composting. That's simply just throw all your stuff in a pile, walk away, and like a year and a half, 6 months, it breaks down, but the seeds you're going to have compost, but the seeds are still viable. So choose your weapons wisely.
Yeah. So you want to layer your compost. Ideally, I mean, this is
if it's in a tumbler, you can't really do that. In a pile, it's more in an outdoor. It's easier to do that.
Yeah. Sometimes you might have to add water.
Mm-hmm.
So you might have to do that. You want to make sure that it does stay somewhat moist, like a wet sponge. If we have a drought, you might need to water it. You want to provide air, and this is where the tumbler comes in. It helps aerate that compost. If you have a pile or a bin, you would have to get in there with a garden fork of some sort and turn it. That helps provide the air.
Let's quickly, the things you don't want to put in the compost. Now, again, if you're in the country and you got a pile in the back 40 and whatever, and you throw whatever, and you don't care if coyotes or raccoons or possums dig in it because it's not close to your residence, that's different. However, this is for the places where your compost bin is close to your house or other residents. Things you don't want to add: meat, bones, oil, discarded plants, simply because disease plants, because harboring those diseases, keeping it warm enough, you can reintroduce those problems into your garden. So you want to keep that in mind as well. You don't want to put eggs or whole eggs. Egg shells are good. Banana peels are good, but you don't want to put the egg itself in there because there are animals that will feast on that.
Right. So you want to, if you do have larger pieces of material, it wouldn't hurt to chop them up, or if it's like twigs or something, just kind of snap them up a little bit.
Even if you don't, it's just going to take longer to break down.
Basically.
I don't have time to just throw it in the pile. It's going to heat up if done correctly, and you can move forward with that. So we have a open tub compost pile. Now, if you don't compost in a means like this, you can do trench composting, which means you had tomatoes in bed A last year, and in that root zone area, you make a trench like you were going to plant potatoes, and you put your scraps in that trench and cover it over. You want to get like 6 to 8 inches deep, okay? Because there's going to be animals that will want to root through it if it's any shallower. And you just use that particular bed as your compost bin for the year, and then you plant in it next spring, and that material is all broken down, and you have a very fertile bed in which you had minimal amount of work. And you can do this in combination with with a tumbler or an open pit or a pile. So that's another means of composting. Again, if you're going to do the trench method, you still want to try to do your best to 50% green, 50% brown. You've got a whole bunch of kitchen scraps. Take some shredded paper and mix in there and do it 50-50 and put it all in that trench, and you can go ahead and have your own compost bin in the ground.
Well, we are brought to you today by Walton's Inc. We know you care about where your food comes from. Canning and preserving your fruits and vegetables is great, but what about the meat? At Walton's Inc., you can get the equipment, seasoning, and supplies to make sausage, jerky, and any other meat product your way to your high standards. Walton's even has a full line of their own meat grinders, mixers, and sausage stuffers to help you go from animal to edible. Walton's everything but the meat. Use code GROW50, that's GROW50, to save 10% off your orders of $50 or more.
When we return, garden maintenance over the summer so you can have a successful garden. You're tuned in to the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show.
Have a garden question? Give Joey and Holly a call now or anytime 24/7. Just dial 1-800-927-SHOW. If you can't get through, leave a message and they will call you back. Call now 1-800-927-SHOW.
One Sweet Earth makes the last garden bed you'll ever need. Strong, simple, sustainable. One Sweet Earth beds slide together in minutes. No tools, no rot, no junk. Durable, non-toxic, woman-owned, made in the USA. Visit onesweetearth.com.
Azure Standard is America's premier family-owned online store for organic foods and healthy products for your home and garden. They deliver directly to families and commercial customers through over 3,500 drop points across all 50 states. Azure Standard strives to make grocery shopping easy, bringing all your needs to one convenient pickup location. As a trusted national health food distributor, Azure Standard offers bulk and specialty health foods to communities nationwide. With over 12,000 products, each one is approved and carefully sampled to ensure the highest quality. Azure Standard holds firm to non-GMO, organic, and natural standards. From food and beauty products to household items, nutritional supplements, animal care, hobby supplies, and even garden essentials, Azure Standard truly has everything for your daily living. Visit azurestandard.com, that's A-Z-U-R-E standard.com. Use promo code Joey and Holly15 at checkout to get 15% off for new customers who open an account for the first time and place a minimum order of $100 or more, shipped to a drop location of your choice. That's code Joey and Holly15 at azurestandard.com. Azure Standard is A-Z-U-R-E standard.com. Good garden tools make gardening easier. Wisconsin-made Cobra Head tools simplify weeding, cultivating, digging, and planting. Favorites of professional gardeners, Cobra Head tools are durable, ergonomic, and easy to work with. Visit CobraHead.com and use coupon code SOIL for 10% off your order. David J. Frank, Southeastern Wisconsin's leading landscape company, is a landscaper you need. Their award-winning services include everything from lawn care, landscape maintenance, design, construction, renovation, irrigation, sustainability, and more. Big or small, let the experts at David J. Frank handle the hard work for you. Find out more at davidjfrank.com.
Check out ivorganics.com. It's America's leading garden product YouTube channel. IV Organic products are innovative, organic, effective, and proudly USA made to help you achieve your best growing season. Use coupon code RADIO10 at checkout and save 10% on your entire order at ivorganics.com. That coupon code again is RADIO10 to save 10% on your order at ivorganics.com. Jung Seed Company is a family-owned and operated gardening company since 1907 with the largest selection of seeds and plants online. Use coupon code 15TG25 to receive 15% off your order at jungseed.com. That coupon code is 15TG25 to save 15% off your order at jungseed.com.
Want bigger blooms and better yields? Without the hassle, Carricade makes gardening easy with eco-friendly, effective solutions. Rated 4.8 stars, trusted by growers like you. Shop Carricade.com and use the code RADIO10, that's RADIO10, to save 10% off your order at Carricade.com.
Vermont Bean Company is a family-owned and operated gardening company with the largest selection of seeds online. Use coupon code 15TG25 to receive 15% off your order at VermontBean.com. That coupon code is 15TG25 to receive 15% off your order at VermontBean.com.
Wind River Chimes will always be the inspiring harmony. With a large selection and customization options, you will find the sound that soothes you. Visit windriverchimes.com to shop and find out more. Used to alleviate pain throughout history, the common milkweed has been rediscovered. Today, milkweed balm helps relieve pain and restore mobility naturally. Pure plant-based relief for aching joints, nerves, and muscles. Experience the healing power of nature. Try milkweed balm today. Use code GARDENING for 20% off your order at milkweedbalm.com.
Welcome back to the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show. Happy to have you along and allowing us to be part of your day. You want to find out more information about those sponsors or all the companies that support the program to allow us to be on your radio each week, the podcast and in-studio video. You can find all that out as well as the coupon codes at our parent website, thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com, underneath the Season 9 tab at the top of the page. Summer gardening maintenance. Some of this is going to be kind of elementary. Other is going to be kind of more of a reminder of things in which you should be doing and at least being aware, if not on a regular basis, a semi-regular basis, in order to have a successful garden, whether you have containers, raised beds, or in the ground. The whole point of the gardening is, one, the decompression or the deconnecting of society and kind of getting in your own world and kind of relaxing.
It could be decompressing too. Yeah, just
but we want
unconnecting, disconnecting.
And the whole purpose is if you're going into the gardening and putting a garden in, your goal is to at least get something out of it. You're not just going in there planting some stuff, walking away going, well, that was fun for 3 weeks.
Right. So you want to make sure you're watering. And this may seem obvious, but a lot of people, you will plant your items, late May, early June. You get some rain, and then all of a sudden in July, we don't get as much rain, or you don't get as much rain.
Well, it's supposed to rain.
Yeah, it's supposed to rain. And then you're like, oh, well, I was going to water, but it's supposed to rain. It doesn't rain, and then you forget about it because you get distracted with life.
Well, it'll rain tomorrow. It says it's going to rain tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. So to make sure you are watering. The next one is everybody's.
Well, watering. You can use a watering can.
Yeah, irrigation.
Irrigation is a far more financially investing product or way to go.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Some people think irrigation is simply pricey, and they don't see it as an investment because they're like, well, I can just water my plants. But however, you are using less water because you're watering right at the root zone, as opposed to like sticking a sprinkler, like an overhead rainbow sprinkler. That's what they're called.
Yeah.
So you're getting right to the root zone. You're going to use less water over time. And also, it's kind of a set it and forget it deal. They
have different emitters for a certain amount of gallons per hour or less. And we have ours from dripworks.com. And ours is set for 20 minutes, 3 times a day, 8 a.m., noon, and 5 p.m. And it consistently keeps the soil damp, not wet, at root zone. And these plants do phenomenally better when they have a little bit of moisture in the soil, rather than, every so many days I go out and I spray the hose at them, and you only get the top fraction of soil moist, and you've watered and you dig down a half an inch and it's still dry. So an irrigation system consistently holds or allows that moisture to stay in the soil, and it's not drying out, and you're not utilizing your time by sitting there with a hose or watering a sprinkler. And they got timers, and they do Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and all this other stuff. So it is just as technology savvy and advanced as anything else you have in your home.
Absolutely. So weeding, this is everybody's least favorite thing usually. If it's not your least favorite thing, then kudos to you. You want to get, you want to weed the garden. You want to make sure you're weeding it thoroughly. You're getting the roots out.
Now, we're not good at this.
No, we're not good at this.
Sometimes the weeds actually harbor and hold the bad insects from attacking the plants in which we're trying to grow.
Right. Or if it's been a dry year, they kind of help hold the moisture in as well.
They produce a shade.
Yeah, they produce a shade. So maybe we're just trying to justify
Add mulch.
Yeah, add mulch. Now, this is something that you could do at the beginning of the season, maybe, or when you planted. Maybe you forgot, whatever. Maybe your mulch decomposed. You need to add more mulch.
Well, what kind of mulch is best for a vegetable garden? An annual, not a perennial.
I would say, I mean, you want to save your leaves from the fall, but those do decompose. So straw works. Otherwise,
chemical seed-free dry grass clippings.
Grass clippings.
You harvest your grass clippings in a bagger. You pour them out and you let them dry, because you bring that wet material in and put it around plants. It is going to start heating up, and it can cause fungal issues. If you've ever bagged lawnmower or bagged clippings, and you pull the bagger off and you let it sit there and you go eat lunch and you come back, you stick your hand in that bagger. It is hot. That material is already breaking down inside the bag itself. Same thing if you just make a pile. So you want to scatter it out, let it dry on the driveway or in the yard next to your bed. Then you can put it around. And then if it gets wet, it's not a big deal. It's just you want to get that initial drying cycle on those chemical-free, seed-free grass clippings.
Right. So the next one is trimming.
Also mulch could be weeds that have not gone to seed. Pull them out and lay them flat on the ground to create a barrier.
That's a good option too. So you want to trim or deadhead. Deadhead is typically more for flowers, but it could be for vegetables as well. Trimming works really well for tomatoes. When you're trimming the bottom portion of the plant, this helps prevent early blight. Let's go back to mulch real quick.
Yeah.
Midway through the season, you want to add more cornmeal around your tomatoes.
Well, we've never even talked about that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just saying that could be with the mulching.
Whole grain cornmeal reduces early blight, and yellow whole grain cornmeal, and you add one handful around the plant at the time of planting. If you've already planted your tomatoes, you can do that now. Once you've put that handful around, you can water it. It's not going to deactivate it. It has a beneficial bacteria in it called trichoderma, which fights the bad bacteria in the soil. Mulching also helps prevent splash up on your not only tomatoes, which early blight will hit the leaves and progressively work up the plant, but your peppers, your eggplants, whatever the plant is. It reduces the sun exposure to the soil, reducing the abundance of weeds that will germinate. You're still going to have some weeds there, but mulching will work. Trimming the tomatoes, you want to trim the lower 6 to 8 inches of the plant to stalk from ground up, and then anything in the canopy area that is going to droop down and potentially get hit by soil splashing up, in addition to having the mulch there. Roses, you want to deadhead as the blooms are dissipating in order to stimulate more blooms. Another thing we want to talk about is over the course of the summer, you want to harvest. And the consistent harvest of cucumbers, bush beans, pole beans, peppers, tomatoes, it will stimulate the plant to continue to put on more and more fruit, because it doesn't care about you. It's designed to grow, massively produce seeds for the next generation, shut off, and die. That's the purpose of a plant. So by harvesting consistently, it's going to continue to put on more and more and more.
Right. So you want to fertilize, and this can be anything from a granular fertilizer to a liquid, and you would just follow the application process. But most people will fertilize when they plant, and then they'll fertilize midway through the season. And then in the spring, in the fall, you would take your leaves, your dried leaves, and put them in your garden to help add that leaf compost.
And not a little bit, mounding 2, 3, 4 foot high, like giant windrows or massive amount of piles.
Right. So fertilizing is important. It helps. While you should have nutrient-rich soil, it helps give those plants a boost to get through to the fall.
Trellising. If your plants need trellising, peas, pole beans, tomatoes, 50% of your tomato loss is caused by not putting your tomatoes up elevated, whether it's on the floor to weave or a tomato cage. Peppers, you don't really need to trellis them. Eggplant, not so much. The beans, the tomatoes, and the peas and the cucumbers, get those up off the ground.
But it's also, good to note that if you see something that is laying there and could use some support,
yes,
I mean, it could even be something as simple as like an overzealous squash plant or something. Yeah, to think about that. Yeah, so trellising is important. And then you also want to look for pests or problems. This is part of just an observation. Spend some time out there, look under leaves.
A few's okay.
Yeah.
A few bad bugs is okay. It's an equal. But whenever you have like a billion bugs,
Infestation.
yeah.
Same thing with any sort of disease, whether that be something like
Powdery mildew.
powdery mildew. Thank you. I was just thinking of that. Or any sort of mildew, any sort of blight. You want to make sure you are looking
Leaf
for
curl. What's causing that? Is that an issue that you've done? Is it chemical drift? Discoloration in the leaves? Are we lacking nitrogen? Is there a problem of pooling water that's suffocating the plant at the root zone?
Right. So you do want to make sure you go into there and look for these possible problems. Keep an eye out. If it seems okay, then it's okay, but make sure it's not progressing.
We all have a very expensive tool in our pocket called a phone, and there are Google has an image. You take a picture of it, and it will pull up. You take a picture of your diseased plant, and you search it. There's probably a good starting point on what is causing or what that problem may be. Well, Holly, summer is here. It's warming up. It's time to protect your garden from various beetles, weevils, borers, including Japanese beetles.
And what better way to prevent these pests from destroying your garden than by controlling them while they are larvae? Grub Gone is an easy-to-apply granule product that can be spread on your turf to successfully control grub invaders. Developed by Phylum Bioproducts from our naturally occurring bacteria, Grub Gone is a non-chemical BT product that specifically targets only scarab pests, and it's safe to use around bees and other beneficial insects.
If you already have those beetles flying around your yard, some of you do, Beetle Gone is the answer. It is the organic water dispersible powder that you can spray directly on your edible plants. Find out more, where to buy, and all the information at beetlegone.com. That's beetlegone.com. When we return, hang out with us. Joe Lampo will be with us. You're tuned in to the Gardening with Joe and Holly radio show.
Got a question for Joey and Holly? Send it via email anytime to gardentalkradio@gmail.com.
One Sweet Earth makes the last garden bed you'll ever need. Strong, simple, sustainable. One Sweet Earth beds slide together in minutes. No tools, no rot, no junk. Durable, non-toxic, woman-owned, made in the USA. Visit onesweetearth.com.
Garden like a pro in 3 easy steps and receive customized fertilizer recommendations for your garden or lawn. Soil Savvy helps you determine what nutrients your plants need to thrive. Never again over-apply nutrients they don't need. A patented process that makes you a smart gardener. To get your soil test kit, go to mysoilsavvy.com. Make watering easy. DripWorks provides quality drip irrigation supplies and equipment to gardeners just like you for all your growing needs across the U.S. and Canada. Purchase online at dripworks.com. Pomona's Universal Pectin is a high-quality pectin that gels reliably with low amounts of any sweetener. If you're trying to reduce the amount of sugar in your diet, you'll love Pomona's Universal Pectin. Now you can make healthy homemade jams and jellies sweetened to your taste. You can use sugar or honey to sweeten. Pomona's Universal Pectin keeps indefinitely when stored in an airtight container. Easy to use, versatile, and comes with directions and recipes in every box. Find out more and where to buy at PomonaPectin.com. Also available at natural food stores and online. Roots and Rhizomes is a family-owned and operated gardening company specializing in daylilies, irises, and perennials. Use code 15TG25 to receive 15% off your order at rootsrhizomes.com. That's code 15TG25.
Have insects such as aphids or fungal gnats invaded your plants? Fight back with Summit Year-Round Spray Oil and Summit Mosquito Bits. Organic Summit Year-Round Spray Oil kills insect pests on indoor and outdoor plants. All natural mosquito bits kill fungal gnats larvae in container plants. Both products are harmless to people, plants, and wildlife. Summit Year-Round Spray Oil and Summit Mosquito Bit are available at garden centers, hardware stores, and at SummitResponsibleSolutions.com. If you could double the life of your raised bed boxes by sealing the wood with a clear, non-toxic wood preservative, would you? Well, now you can with a clear
penetrating product called Internal Wood Stabilizer. It's 100% non-toxic and easy to apply. Seal your untreated wood surfaces, even chicken coops, by spraying on Internal Wood Stabilizer. It's invisible, seals the wood from the inside out, and never wears off. Recommended by organic gardening experts. Internal Wood Stabilizer. Check it out at timberprocoatingsusa.com. Tree Ivy Root Development System, the quickest way to get new trees on their feet. treeiv.com. Save your back. Easily and quickly remove trees and shrubs from your property with the Weed Wrench. Find it at weed-wrench.com. Made in the USA. Use coupon code WEED to save $10 off your Weed Wrench at weed-wrench.com. Welcome back to the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show. Happy to have you around. If you missed any of those sponsors, those coupon codes, you can find all that out at our parent website, thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com. Holly, let's go to the hotline and bring in our guest for this week.
Joel Lampel is not only an experienced gardener, but an author, blogger, podcaster, and host of the well-known PBS show, Growing a Greener World. Welcome to the program, Joe.
Hey, Holly and Joey. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. Though the show has transitioned from PBS, I'm sure you're just as hectic and going hard and strong as you've ever been.
Absolutely. There's no shortage of projects and things that I want to do and need to do, and so we're keeping busy.
Well, I've always been told by the older generation you got to keep moving, and if you don't, that's when you're done.
Well, then I don't have anything to be worried about.
Well, I'll start with this. How do you get enough compost for your raised beds if you can't make it, or how do you make enough, and how do you keep your soil productive and fed year after year without what traditional gardeners may think as a chemical fertilizer?
Yeah, I think the magic is in feeding the soil and letting the soil feed the plants, and the way that you do that is with organic material. And the single best ingredient you can make to add to your garden soil is compost. And I add about 2 inches a year, about an inch in the spring between my early spring garden and my summer garden. When the beds are bare and I'm getting ready to make that changeover, I top dress with an inch, maybe 2 inches of compost. And I do the same thing coming out of the summer garden, coming into the fall cool season garden. I top dress with compost, and that compost is my fertilizer, and it's what I use to feed the soil. And so the way that I make enough for my large 16 raised beds is that I source my my debris from my clean outs and my garden beds. I get coffee grounds from a local coffee roaster every other week. On Sundays, I go pick up a generous load of coffee grounds. And then I use my chicken manure, the poultry manure, and the bedding. And that is a nice component for nitrogen, as well as the coffee grounds. And then the carbon source are the leaves and the garden cleanup debris that I'm collecting around my property. And between those three things, I make a lot of compost. Now, granted, I have a decent amount of land here, so that doesn't hurt, but I'm out sourcing additional components that I bring into my compost bins. So even when you don't have, something on site that gives you the volume that you need, you can still be creative and you can go source it. Like I said, with the coffee shops or maybe the produce departments of the grocery stores, or, you just got to get creative and figure out where you can get it, but it's out there. You just got to find it.
Now, if somebody chooses to purchase large quantities from a compost supplier, I have no issue with that, but not all compost from compost suppliers are created equal.
Gosh, that is $1 million statement. And the thing is, there's no set guideline on how you make compost. So it's just a matter of the ingredients that the retailer or the wholesaler is bringing in to make their compost. But it's coming in from all different sources, so you never really know who's bringing in what. And so it's difficult for the consumer to know that they're getting compost that's reliable, that it doesn't have persistent herbicides in it. And it's a real challenge because persistent herbicides are becoming more common than ever, and we don't want those going into our garden. So how do you know if the compost that you're buying in bulk, like at a wholesale landscape supply company, is free of that, well, it's hard to know. But before you would add a bunch of it in your garden beds, I would recommend getting a sample of it from the vendor and going home and doing what is called a bioassay test, and putting some in a pot and then sowing some bean seeds or some tomato seeds and seeing how your plants do over 3 weeks. And if they germinate and look like normal, healthy plants in 3 weeks, you should be fine. But if they look distorted or twisted or just odd looking, chances are it's got persistent herbicide in it, and you don't want to get anywhere near that.
And if you as gardeners, we can ask all the questions we want to the retailer or the supplier, and if they start walk away, because if they want your money, and if they can't give you solid, confident answers, they're not the person you need to deal with to begin with.
That's right. And if you're asking those questions, they know that you are a savvy shopper and you know your stuff. And so that is a very good recommendation, is to boldly ask those questions, because you don't want that stuff going into your garden, because if you put it there and it does have persistent herbicide, you're probably going to be paying for that for about 4 or 5 years to establish your soil to a healthy state.
And that's what happened to you.
Yeah, sure did. I'm speaking from experience.
And it wasn't from lack of knowledge on your end. You didn't know certain things was happening, and by the time they were happening, it was too far to reverse it, and it took several years in order to remitigate the soil naturally.
Right. The irony is I knew all about persistent herbicide, and I warned everybody else not to use, horse manure that was in question. But I have horses, and the manure looked beautiful, and I saw stuff growing out the top of it, and I assumed everything was okay, but I just made a bad assumption, and I paid the price.
But the price you paid has saved hundreds, if not thousands, of gardeners from making that same mistake in their backyards.
It has, and that has a lot to do with the fact that we were willing to share our mistake publicly on national television, because we're all learning, and it's something that can happen to anybody. And as someone who knew about the risk of that, and it somehow got by me, and I made that same mistake, then certainly you can cut yourself some slack if it happens to you. And I'm glad I was able to, in the hindsight, I'm glad it happened, because like you said, Joey, I was able to share that with a lot of people.
Definitely. And I think a lot of people have this misconception.
They didn't know about it. They didn't know it existed.
Well, right. And also, just because you have X amount of years of experience, or like us who have a garden radio show, that we're like, these super, super experts or whatever. And like, yes, we can be, but also mistakes still happen. And that's how
we don't know everything.
Exactly. So what is a major plant disease that you have dealt with, and how did you get rid of it or control it?
Yeah. For me, we get a lot of disease. Well, first of all, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, so it's hot and humid, and that is a really good environment for diseases to blow in and take hold. And usually it's my tomato plants. Otherwise, my garden is very healthy, but you just can't avoid or prevent airborne diseases from coming in. And so I deal with those every year, and it's kind of a race to the finish line to see how many tomatoes I can harvest before my plants finally succumb. But the biggest problems I have are soil-borne disease, like let's see, what would be bacterial leaf spot is one that comes to mind, and a couple others, but they're in the soil, and that's really hard. Once you get the pathogens in the soil, it's you've got to really rotate your crops out of that same growing environment for at least 3 seasons or 3 years. And that's the way, really the only way that I'm able to kind of get ahead of recovering that planting area, so that my next round of tomato plants isn't going to get, those soil-borne diseases, is giving those beds a break from putting those same plants back in the same spot to allow the pathogens to persist, because I'm giving them what they need, because they're really feeding off of what plants in the tomato family like peppers, eggplant, and potatoes provide the pathogens to keep them around. And so by starving them of that over a period of 3 years of absence in those same beds, that tends to wear them out. And so that's been my best strategy, because you really can't prevent those diseases. You just have to figure out a way to, be patient and work through it.
Well, you're in your garden pretty much daily. It's part of your job, essentially. For people who may not be able to have that availability as frequently, what are some of the best tips you can give for weed control?
Oh, man, yes. Okay, so use some mulch. Use a layer of mulch, natural wood mulch, about 2 inches if you can do it, over the soil surface, because that's going to block the sunlight getting to the soil, and many weed seeds need the sunlight to germinate. So if you can add the mulch layer, that's going to do a big job in helping really cut down on the amount of weeds that are germinating in your soil. Now, that said, you're still going to have weeds in your soil germinating, but it's going to really be closer to the surface and kind of more embedded in the mulch than anything else. So it's much easier to pull the weeds from mulch than from weeds that are deeply rooted into the soil surface. So mulch, and then when you're in the garden, however often that is, don't miss an opportunity to bend over and pull the few weeds that you're going to find while you can. And it's always easiest after a nice shower, a rain shower, because they really want to come up easier that way. So that's number 2. And number 3 would be find your favorite weeding tool and make sure that that's close by and convenient for you to use. And then just for me, I have a large raised bed garden, but it only takes me about 5 minutes a week to do the weeding that I need to really keep those weeds at bay. And when you are consistently paying attention to it, taking a few minutes to bend over or use your weeding tool to get them out and use mulch, you really, really cut down on the work involved to keep your beds relatively weed-free. It really does work.
Fantastic. So you have a very thorough book that came out a couple of years ago. It's the Vegetable Gardening Book, Your Complete Guide to Growing an Edible Organic Garden from Seed to Harvest. What is something in the book that would encourage our listeners to pick up a copy and just talk a little bit more about your book?
I would say that if you want to feel like the book that you're reading gives you the impression that you've got a gardening ally or a gardening expert or somebody that you can trust by your side to help you be a more successful gardener, that's the way I wrote this book. I wanted it to sound like, as you read it, I'm your buddy in the garden, and I'm just helping you with my wisdom and knowledge over 3 decades of gardening full time as my profession and my passion, so that you feel confident that you can do it. Because my whole goal with that book is to help you, as I often say, become a better, smarter, more confident gardener. So I always intended to make this book provide that sense for those who are reading it. And from the feedback I've gotten, that's what they get out of it. And so I hope that anybody that doesn't have the book yet, that is curious, that wants to be a better gardener and just feel like they can do it, this book was written with that spirit.
Well, there are many tools that you can use in the garden. Some are El Junco, and others are tried and true American made, and some are just long lasting. What are some of your main tools that you like taking in the garden with you, and what should people kind of avoid?
Okay, so I believe you get what you pay for. So if you buy quality garden tools, you should be able to have them for your lifetime as long as you don't lose them and you take care of them. You don't leave them out in the rain. You sharpen the blades. You keep them clean. You're going to have those tools for a long time. And for me, there are 3 tools that I have with me in the garden at all times. One is my soil knife, which many people think of as a hori-hori knife. And it's very similar because the blade design is the same, but the knife that I use has a more comfortable handle, and it's orange. I get mine from A.M. Leonard. You can get it online and through Amazon too. And it costs about $30, but it is so worth it. I'm telling you, Joey and Holly, there's not a day I'm in the garden that I don't use it for something. And usually it's more than one thing, especially when you're getting down into taprooted weeds, you're trying to get them out. This blade gets down under the taproot, and just pries it right out. But that's one of many examples that I use that. The other thing is bypass pruners. And there's some really good brands of bypass pruners out there, but you should plan on spending somewhere between $30 and $60. And make sure it's a bypass style pruner, because that is a sharp blade that cuts through the soft tissue and passes through the hook, the lower part of the blade or the lower part of the pruner. And that makes a clean cut. And that's what you're looking for. That protects your plant's health. It doesn't crush it. It cuts it where you're making the cut. And that's what you want. And there's the other type of pruner is called anvil. They're not nearly as popular, but that's not what you want when you're really wanting to just make nice clean cuts. You want bypass pruners. And the other thing I use are micro shears or precision thin bladed scissors, because sometimes the pruner is just too big for getting in tight spaces, whether you're thinning out seedlings or you're trying to get into a flower or make deadhead cuts or something like that. Sometimes the best tool for that is micro shears or those thin bladed scissors. And in this case, those are not expensive. Even really well-made stainless steel Teflon coated scissors are like $15, maybe $20, but those are really nice to have. And so those three tools are the ones that I suggest everybody keep on you at all times.
And you said your knife has an orange handle. For those who have frequent problems losing, get some fluorescent tape and tape the handles on these so they stand out in the garden.
Yes, absolutely, because invariably you're going to set it down somewhere, and if it's got a brown wooden handle on it, you're not going to find it as quickly as you are with a orange handle, whether that's tape or it's embedded into the rubber, padded handle.
Or you'll find it with a lawnmower.
Yes. Oh, gosh. Oh, my gosh. Yes.
Well, Joe, we greatly appreciate the time you've offered and the education. How can people find out more about you?
I think the easiest way is joegardner.com on the website or on social at Joe Gardner, mostly on Instagram and YouTube, Joe Gardner TV. Those are three good places.
And where can we see all the Growing a Greener World episodes on YouTube?
Yes. The other YouTube channel, GGW TV, that has over 200 of our episodes over 12 years, 12 seasons, traveling the country, telling the stories of people and places doing good things for the planet through organic gardening and sustainable living.
Well, Joe, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom.
Thank you, too.
Absolutely. And when we return, it's your garden questions and our garden answers. You're tuned in to the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show.
Have a garden question? Give Joey and Holly a call now or anytime 24/7. Just dial 1-800-927-SHOW. If you can't get through, leave a message and they will call you back. Call now 1-800-927-SHOW.
Chip Drop is a website you can sign up for free wood chip mulch delivery right to your door. For free, Chip Drop connects homeowners and gardeners with tree services who are trying to get rid of their wood chips. You can also sign up to get free logs and firewood. Go to chipdrop.com to learn more and sign up for a free account. Do you have pets trying to leave your fenced area or pests trying to enter your fenced area or garden? DigDefense provides peace of mind that your pets are contained safely and humanely in your yard, and other animals or pests stay out. With several sizes to pick from, DigDefense is the easy, safe way to extend the protection of your fence, protecting your pets and your property. Find out more at stopthedig.com. Edmonds Roses is a family-owned and operated rose company with the largest selection of roses online. Use coupon code 15TG25 to receive 15% off your order at edmondroses.com. That coupon code is 15TG25 to save 15% off your order at edmondsroses.com. 4-Jar Canning Supply, your one-stop shop for all your canning needs, where old ways meet new in every jar. They are a family with decades of home canning experience, offering top-quality products and outstanding service. Never run out of canning lids again. Whether you're a seasoned canner or just starting out, their extensive range of canning products will elevate your canning game. 4JARs.com. Inspired by the homemade preserves of our childhoods, they want to share that same joy with you. They deeply care about your family's health and understand the importance of homemade, nutritious meals. That's why they offer high-quality products to help you preserve your food. quality canning lids, pressure canners, vacuum seal machines, and all the tools you need to get the job done. 4 Jars has you covered. Our canning lids provide the perfect airtight seal for any regular, wide, or gym-sized jar. With the thickest lids on the market, they provide long-lasting freshness, up to 18 months, and are rust-resistant, ensuring your preserves stay secure. Use code 4JARS25 to save 10% off your order at 4jars.com. That's FORJARS25 to save 10% off your order at 4jars, FORJARS.com.
Goodbye, biting bugs and plant invaders. No More Bugs by Naturally Green Products is your answer. No More Bugs is DEET-free and not sticky on your skin. USDA certified, No More Bugs has been a favorite by consumers across the country for over 14 years. More than a repellent, it is safe for you, your plants, pets, and home. Available online at nomorebugs.net, Amazon, Walmart.com, and the Home Shopping Network.
Mantis garden tiller cultivators are the perfect solution for any garden. With their gas-powered 2-cycle or 4-cycle engine, these powerful machines can till 9 or 16 inches of land without you breaking a sweat. And it doesn't stop there. Mantis's optional attachments allow you to aerate, plow, and more with the snap of a finger. Engineered with durability in mind, Mantis tiller cultivators will be your guaranteed garden companion for a long time. You can find more out and details at mantis.com.
My garden hasn't looked this good in a decade. That's what gardeners are saying about Carricade. No extra fertilizers, no harsh sprays, just thriving plants and massive blooms. Rated 4.8 stars. Shop Carricade.com and use the code RADIO10, that's Radio10, to save 10% off your order at Carricade.com. R.H. Shumway is a family-owned and operated gardening company with a large selection of seeds and plants online. You can use code 15TG25 to receive 15% off your order at rhshumway.com. That's code 15TG25. Totally Tomato is a family-owned and operated gardening company with the largest selection of tomatoes online. Use code 15TG25 to receive 15% off your order at totallytomato.com. That's code 15TG25.
Welcome back to the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show. Thank you for being with us. If you want to find out more about those sponsors that support our program that may be beneficial to you and your garden, and find those coupon codes, that all can be found at our parent website, thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com, under the Season 9 and Money tab at the top of the page. Well, it's time for your garden questions and our garden answers. You can submit your questions at gardentalkradio@gmail.com. That's gardentalkradio@gmail.com. Or you can send us a phone call. You can give us a phone call at toll-free 1-800-927-SHOW. That's 1-800-927-7469. If you can't get through, leave a message and we will call you back.
Okay, what is the smallest container I can grow a cucumber in? So ideally a 3-gallon bucket.
It would be the minimal.
Yeah,
5 would be best, but if you've got a 3-gallon grow bag or a 3-gallon bucket, that would be fine. And in a bucket, either any container, you want to have drainage holes. Not putting the drainage holes in an instance, let's do the example, the 5-gallon bucket at the bottom. You don't do that. Go up about an inch all the way around. 3 to 5 half-inch holes, quarter-inch holes. Allow the excess water to run out. That inch gives you a little water reservoir for the capillation action of the soil to reabsorb the water that's setting down in that bottom there, in the case that you forget to water or it needs a little more moisture prior to you watering. So, and you can mulch in containers as well.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. Marcia listening to us on WOGO 680 AM and FM 103.1 out of the Chippewa Falls area. What do you suggest as an organic spray for apple trees to prevent the brown track that appears in my apples? I don't know what causes this, but I don't want to eat them. Is this too late to spray them? And please let me know what you would advise.
Sure. So when asking questions like this, a picture would be very helpful. My best guess is it's something called apple maggot, or sometimes it's called apple coddling moth. But either way, they lay these maggots into the apple. So there's some different
as
things.
the fruit's developing.
as the fruit you got the flower and the fruit's starting to develop, and then it's in the flower, is it not?
It's in the flower.
Yeah. When the flower is developing, that's when that starts happening.
So one thing you can do to prevent a lot of problems is bagging the fruits. So this is something that you would do once the fruit appears. It helps prevent that moth larva from getting into the apple itself. Now you can do pheromone traps. This is something, if you do the pheromone traps, you would want to put those kind of in opposite corner of your apple area, yard, whatever you have, because it'll keep them away from the apples, not draw them to the apples. There are beneficial insects like parasitic wasps and assassin bugs. I don't know if you want to start introducing new predators in your yard, but that is an option. There's garlic spray. This is you take crushed garlic, water, and some dish soap, and you can spray those around the flowers, and then once the apples start to form around the buds.
So it may be a little late for that.
Yeah, it could be a little bit late for that. There's different horticulture oil mixes, and then there's something called kaolin clay. It's KAOLIN, and you can put this around. It kind of goes around the branches and stuff to help discourage the moths as well. I don't know how effective all of these are, but these are some organic means. And then there is a natural insecticide called spinosad, SPINOSAD, and that is something that can be sprayed as well. And it's not necessarily too late. You could try it, but definitely don't eat the fruit.
Yeah. So good news, bad news, I guess, on that.
Yeah.
How often do I need to fertilize my vegetables? Kind of a broad question there, but at the time of planting, regardless of the soil, we always grow in compost. So 100% compost in a raised beds. So at the time of planting, we always apply a organic fertilizer according to the specs on the bag. And then because of our shortened season, we always go with something that's like a 464 or 686, something under the 10 number on the bag. Each bag in the world has 3 numerals, and it's nitrogen, phosphate, and potassium. So that is universal. And because the numbers may be so high, let's say triple 20, that's more of a synthetic, but we don't have by the time that would be effective, the plants and the soil is not utilizing that fertilizer because the season's already short. So we try to keep it under a triple 10. If you see plants telling you they need something, then again, you can utilize Google, you can utilize other apps in order to try to track down, is this a nitrogen deficiency? Is this a this? Is this a that? I mean, the simplistic answer is you don't know until you do a soil test. Until you do a soil test from soilsavvy.com, you can't say, well, that plant looks shallow, so that means it needs X amount of this and X amount of that in order to get it back where it needs to be. There are liquid fertilizers in which you can dilute and water in order to get a more instant or direct feed to the plant in order to offset the problem. But the general rule is having a good starting material to plant in can save a lot of issues. If you have crummy soil and you're not making that soil better every year by adding organic matter or bringing compost in and adding so much compost on top of the existing beds or the existing ground, you're setting yourself up to a certain level of failure because you're supplementing and adding and you're not giving the plant the ability to grow to its capabilities because you're not feeding the soil. By not feeding the soil on a regular basis, like I said, we fertilize when we plant, and then the compost has such a high level of nutrient that we don't need to re-fertilize. Now, in a container, you're going to need to fertilize the top inch or two, rake in a handful or the recommended rate of a fertilizer about every 45 to 60 days, because the leaching, as you water, it will permeate out and pull that nutrient out, and the plant will suffer if you don't fertilize in a container.
I don't have anything to add to that. I completely agree.
All right. Well, we are out of time, and we thank you for yours. Miss any portion of the program today or would like to revisit it, you can certainly do that by going to our parent website, thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com, and clicking on the Season 9 and Money tab at the top of the page, as well as your favorite podcast platform. Search the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show. Tune in the program next week, where we'll be discussing kids in the garden, as well as the health of bees. Our guest is author Ashley Thomas will be with us, and we'll answer more of your garden questions. So until next week, for Holly Baird, I'm Joy Baird.
Excuse me.
Yes, and we will see you in the garden.